Hello and welcome to StaySafe. My name is Stephen Wingate and I'm here to discuss with you the concept of what StaySafe is and how you can indeed stay safe at work. So, what is StaySafe? StaySafe is a group of processes and a group of policies and procedures that you can adhere to whilst at work to stay safe. So, what's in that group? Well, we have first aid. So that's first aid at work, health and safety, information, advice and guidance, safeguarding, prevent, welfare, and equality and diversity. So we're going to run through each of those and what those roles and responsibilities are. So the first one is first aid. At work, we're all responsible for ensuring that we're in a safe working environment. And from time to time, it is possible that a slip, trip, fall or an accident might happen. If accidents happen at work or near misses, these need to be reported. So it's important you understand who you're reporting these to. Around the organisation, you will see green first aid posters. This should tell you who your first aider at work is. It is important that you make sure accurate records are filled in on the accident that you've had. So please make sure that you are given an incident piece of paper to record the accident if you receive any first aid. What about equipment? Well, your first aiders will ensure that the boxes are checked on a regular basis, and if you're allergic to anything, please make sure that you tell them this. Not everywhere will have a first aid room, but everywhere should have the means of providing first aid facilities. So you have a duty of care as well to find out where the equipment is, where the boxes are, and where to go if you do have an accident. Please make sure you do this before you start any work activity. You'll never know when you have an accident, so it's important you know this up front. So the next concept we talked about was health and safety. So, your employer will have somewhere a health and safety poster. It is a legal requirement to have this poster. Please make sure you read it. It outlines the very basic information around staying safe at work. It'll explain who your health and safety officer is and how you can report a health and safety incident. Remember, the legislation isn't there just for your employer to protect you, but also from employees. Everybody has a duty of care to report any health and safety incident, so please just don't sit back and think it's down to my employer. Equally, it's important you work within safe ways of working. These safe ways of working will be identified within a risk assessment. Please make sure you've taken time to read the risk assessments. And remember, don't carry out any work activity you've not been trained to do. Doing this could be dangerous and potentially cause an accident for yourself and cause harm to others. We also have advice and guidance on health and safety. It's important you know where your fire routes are, who to report to, and where to go. Health and safety isn't just about keeping yourself safe at work. It's about preventing an accident or an injury happening to other people as well. So please be assured that you do know the safe methods of working. IAG. Information, advice and guidance is a key concept to student welfare. We all need to understand what it is we're doing and why we're doing it. This is important for many reasons, including motivation and trying to achieve our end goal. Sometimes we just need to know what we're doing and why we're doing it. So please make sure that you have spoken to your IAG person. The IAG officers, normally in places of work, are identified again on a poster or signposted in your induction book. IAG also counts as a self-checking point. It's useful for us to know who it is we're talking to and a point of contact. So this point of contact could simply be your supervisor, a mentor or a manager. But please make sure that you have ongoing regular information, advice and guidance. As a minimum, information, advice and guidance should be given at 3 stages. At the beginning, so why am I here and what am I doing? In the middle, how am I doing, and am I going to achieve my goals? And finally, at the end, have I achieved my goals? Information, advice and guidance is a key concept to progress in. Please must make sure that you have it and you work towards this. Our next section is safeguarding. Safeguarding is a really important concept. Those that work within health and social care generally have a really good understanding of safeguarding because it underpins our day-to-day working and philosophy of care. But other sectors may not necessarily have such a strong understanding of what safeguarding is and how safeguarding affects people. So I'm just going to explain this quite briefly for you. Safeguarding can happen at any point, and if policies and procedures aren't in place, there's a likelihood that harm may happen to somebody. So there are several different ways that somebody could be harmed. So let's explore those. The first one is around financial abuse. We can all be subject to financial abuse. It's important that if we make any financial transactions, we understand what it is we're doing and what the transaction is for. Now, financial abuse doesn't just have to be about cash. It could be about your property as well. So if you loan something out and you don't get it back, then technically that could be seen as financial abuse because you've paid for that and it's gone missing or it's been misused. Financial abuse is about somebody misusing you in a way that's inappropriate and it's at a detriment to you. This may be with or without your consent or full understanding. So it's important you understand how financial abuse may or may not affect you. This can also be seen as things such as club points, if you're going shopping for somebody and you collect their bonus points for them. So please make sure that you keep receipts and you always gain consent for anything that you do around financial. And finally, make sure you have a record to confirm that you fully have entered a transaction and everyone's agreed it. Then we have physical abuse. Physical abuse can happen two ways, directly and indirectly. Physical abuse generally seems to be the one that a lot of people understand, or at least the direct contact. He hit me. She hit me. Meaning it's obvious to see. There could be bruising, cuts, grazes and bleeding. The unobvious parts of physical abuse is restraining somebody's movement. So for example, if somebody says to you, sit there and don't move, or they lock you in a room, that can also be seen as physical abuse because your physical ability to move has been restrained or restricted. So please make sure that any physical abuse, direct or indirect, is reported immediately. Sexual abuse. Sexual abuse again has a direct and indirect process. So direct contact for sexual abuse could be anything from penetration to touching somebody inappropriately or touching somebody without consent in an inappropriate manner. Indirect sexual abuse is sometimes a lot harder for people to understand, but generally it can be seen as eyeballing, looking somebody up and down and making them feel uncomfortable. It could be words and comments or sexual innuendos, pornography or porn, so showing people photos or sharing images of people that you have no right to share, and that would be seen as indirect sexual abuse. Nobody should suffer any form of sexual abuse, direct or indirect, so please make sure you read the handbooks and you understand what those concepts are. A lot of the time I've dealt with incidences where people have just said, I'm just playing, or it's just a joke, or can't they take a joke? Please be aware that your threshold of what a joke may be may not be somebody else's threshold of a joke. We then have discrimination. So we know that discrimination can come in form of 7 different types. So age, race, colour, etc., religion. Discrimination should not be tolerated of any kind. Therefore, it's important we understand everyone's abilities and that we support everybody and provide everybody with equal access and equal rights. Remember, discrimination isn't simply about treating people how you would want to be treated. That in itself could actually cause discrimination. Please make sure that you understand that there is direct discrimination and indirect discrimination. Direct discrimination is when I go out my way to cause harm or offence. I've directly discriminated you based on your age, your colour, your sex or your religion. Indirect discrimination is a little bit more subtle. For example, it may be a practice that the company has and it doesn't suit you. For example, in nursing homes on a Friday they always have fish and chips. You may take great offence to this if you're not Catholic or Christian and find that a practice such as that can cause harm. It's a little extreme as an example, but hopefully you get the idea. There are practices that are designed absolutely fine for people with a Christianity belief, but somebody who is not Christianity may find that fish on a Friday is an offence, causes offence. We then have other forms of abuse that you need to consider as well. So institutional abuse. Institutional abuse is when a regime is more important than the person that you are looking after or responsible for. So for example, in education, that might be seen as I don't have time to talk to you when someone's trying to disclose something to you because I'm too busy. It's important we all recognise that people have needs. There may not always be appropriate times, but again, providing somebody with an opportunity to discuss their concerns is more appropriate. In nursing care, it's a little bit more subtle. For example, somebody may ask to go to the toilet and we say we can't do that until 10 o'clock. Just imagine how you would feel if a regime was more important than your needs and how you would feel in that incident. As you can see, under safeguarding, there are many ways that you may feel at harm or at risk. So therefore, it is important you read our safeguarding policies, procedures, and you understand how to record and report. We follow the philosophy of the whistleblowing policies. In other words, we won't tolerate any form of abuse, from learners to patients to staff to teachers. Please make sure you know where the whistleblowing procedures are and how to record and report a whistleblowing incident. On our website, you'll find links that help you do this. It's important you follow them and you understand how to do this. Let's move on to prevent. So prevent is a strategy about anti-terrorism and keeping people safe at work. It's about British values and ensuring that we all understand what they are and that we all work towards a common goal. Everybody within the United Kingdom has a duty of care to look after themselves and others. So therefore, if you see something, you should report it immediately. Everywhere that you work should have prevent posters with a designated officer. So somebody that you could go to talk to if you have seen or feel that something's not right. Remember, it's not just about looking for the obvious signs of anti-terrorism, but it's also about extreme behaviour. So for example, if you talk about a subject which would normally be a subject that doesn't cause a great offence, when somebody starts to go on and on and on and become very strong-minded about it, about their views and their opinions, that everybody must listen and everybody must conform. Remember, our British values are all around the rule of law and democracy. So when somebody starts to become forceful or challenging or start to use any form of religion to try and support their idea, it's important that you think about that, analyse it, and then have a discussion around whether or not you feel that that's radicalisation. All of your companies and everyone we work with will receive our hot topics. It's important that you read those hot topics on a monthly basis. They're normally written to provoke thoughtful discussions and meaningful discussions around certain subjects. If you have any concerns around prevent or the prevent strategy, please make sure you know who your prevent officer is and how and when to record that. Welfare. So whilst at work, everybody has a duty of care under health and safety and first aid to provide welfare facilities. It's important you understand what they are and where they are. Please make sure that you know how to record and report any welfare concerns. And remember, it's not just about at work when you may have a problem. You may have a personal problem. And then when we have personal problems, we bring them into work, they start to form stress and we don't perform to our optimum. If we have certain aspects of our lives that aren't going well and it starts to cause us stress and anxieties, we can make mistakes or at worst have an accident. Therefore, we have welfare facilities and welfare officers, people that you can talk to de-stress and to discuss certain aspects of your life. If you arrange a welfare at work meeting, they will always be confidential unless at any point you disclose something which potentially could lead you into harm or harm with others. Remember, the welfare officer's role are to help you come to a conclusion about the best way forward. They're not there as counselling sessions to tell you what to do. They're there to help you explore your ideas, provide you with information, advice and guidance, and look at other alternatives you may not have thought before. But it's important we recognise that we need to be looked after from time to time. With that, it's important just to take a moment out of your day to look around and talk to your colleagues. So if you see somebody who's slightly sad or looking a little bit low or potentially quiet that day, go up to them and say to them, "Hey, how you doing?" That in itself may be enough that somebody just needs to snap them out of whatever situation they're in and to think actually people do care. It's important we still keep humanistic contact at work and that people understand that we're there to listen and support each other. And finally, equality and diversity. So, as I said earlier, equality and diversity has the protected characteristics, and it's important that we understand everybody has a right to be protected under those protected characteristics. What is not acceptable under any form is discrimination, direct or indirect, under those characteristics. It's important that you have your needs met at work. Therefore, if you have any disability or any reasonable adjustments that need to be made, please make sure that you talk to your manager. It's not as bad as you think. People will be able to come up with solutions to help your life a little bit more, to try and find an adjustment to make you to work to an optimum level as everybody else. Things such as dyslexia or learning difficulties at work are really no longer a problem, as there are so many resources and support aids out there that can help you work just efficiently and effectively as other people. It's having the courage to talk to somebody about those to get the support that you may need to ensure that you can work to the same level. There is absolutely nothing to be ashamed of or worried about if you need any reasonable adjustments. We have an equality and diversity officer in all of the organisations, so it's important that you understand any reasonable adjustments should be recorded and what the adjustment was to ensure that fair access and fair work opportunities has taken place. So we've just run through what each of those are under Staying Safe. It's important you understand what StaySafe is and how you can stay safe on a regular basis. By understanding that we have those different areas and different departments under the StaySafe teams, understanding who your officers are and how to get hold of them, ensuring that you have read all the relevant policies and procedures for first aid, health and safety, safeguarding, prevent, welfare and equality, reading your staff handbook, ensuring that you maintain regular ongoing training, and engaging with our monthly hot topics are all your responsibilities. It's our responsibility to ensure that we give you the access, the facilities and the services and a time and space to discuss those. Therefore, you should have regular supervision with your supervisor. It's important that you have this supervision on a monthly or bi-monthly basis. Remember, supervision is an opportunity for you to discuss your worries and concerns. It's not there to discuss things that you're not doing. It's about you and providing you with a safe space to discuss any of the stuff that we've mentioned. So please, If you just skipped to the end of this video, the most important things are: read your policies and procedures, attend your training, make sure that you finish the learner handbooks or the employer handbooks, make sure you know who to record to and who to report to, and finally, if you see something that's not right, please say something to the StaySafe team. Thanks for listening.